Hello, welcome to PlayStation Access. I'm Nathan, and this is the Tuesday Checklist, the weekly show where we take inspiration from a recent or upcoming game, basically any game, and then talk about other games. Anyway, this week, after a go on the Resident Evil 2 remake at E3, we went back to the original, which led to this discussion about 90s games that show how good we have it now. Allow me to explain. Go ahead, me.
So, the game which I have chosen this week, a 90s game which shows how lucky we are now. And the comparison was extremely stark because, Dave, you and I played this game in a remastered version on PlayStation 4 at E3.
Yep.
Resident Evil 2.
Oh, yeah.
And it was great. It was like a new game. You know, it was horrible, and there was loads of blood and guts in it, but it was, it's based in the Resi 7 engine, just plays like a new game. Some kind of, you recognise the places and everything, and it gives you that kind of sense of, oh, yes, the past, but nice the past. And then, when we got back to the office, we wanted to make a comparison video, so booted up the original Resident Evil 2, and my experience of it was like genuinely extraordinary. You just forget. So I watched about 2 minutes of like incredible pre-rendered cutscenes of like people being astonished that zombies were happening. And then there's a little bit of text, fades to black, some incredible coincidences, some stuff explodes, and then like there I am, Leon, just in the middle of Raccoon City, surrounded by zombies. And like basically you sort of want to go left. So I pressed left and started like slowly turning around on the spot. And then like realised really slowly that oh god, yeah, of course, like we've got those, do you want to call them tank controls? But like where it's up is forward no matter which way he's facing, and then left and right sort of steer him in either direction. And I remember this being hard. I remember playing the original Resident Evil 2 and being told, just run. Like, don't worry, you're not going to shoot. This isn't the kind of a zombie swatting game. You're not going to be like taking everybody out. You can't really aim to do headshots. So just run through these opening screens. You
haven't mentioned that there were zombies there, Nate.
Yeah, surrounded by zombies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on the next screen. So I get off there's 3 screens to safety. I kind of remember that. So I get off the first one, and I've been bitten twice already. Then there are more zombies, and the problem is like the other big problem I'm having is that the back, like, because we're in a different age here, so the graphics are very much, we've made you quite a nice pre-rendered background, and then you and the zombies move. Everything else is still. That's how that's how they made it look like 3D, but none of it's really live as a setting. But what it means is you have to sort of guess where you can move and where you can't. The actual movable space in those first couple of screens of Resi 2 is like, an inch and a half or whatever. So I'm like careening into cars and just like shop fronts and stuff and getting murdered by zombies. And I die really quickly. Like I probably get halfway to the gun shop where that doomed man is living, and I die.
Spoilers.
And I'm like, fair enough, I'm just gonna, I'll do that again. I'm at the menu screen, at the top screen, and I'm like, Jesus God, yeah, of course, it's got like a save system where you have to find ink ribbons, take them to a typewriter, and there's like, so saving the game is a consumable, which is quite cool, but also like, because I hadn't ever saved, it just was like, oh my God, that's extremely brutal.
It's tense though, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, it is.
I like that a zombie from off screen pulled you into another screen.
Yeah, I know.
Good.
Yeah, the camera angle changing is crazy. That's the other thing. There are things that Leon is like, you'll have like that crazy kind of high altitude angled camera shot, and what it'll mean is you're really close to the camera and it looks really cool and like horror movie-esque. What it also means is there's a zombie which is a foot away from my face, and I can't see where it is, so I can't really aim at it. Leon Kennedy can see much more than I can.
Yeah.
Sometimes he looks at stuff and you're like, that zombie's definitely still alive.
Yeah.
If he's looking at the ground over there. But no, like definitely the camera angles are like that. You go in and the artistry of the game is, the fact that it's making fairly generic environments just look a bit different and a bit interesting. And like suddenly it's scary to walk up an alleyway because you're right back here and you're walking into the distance further and further away and you can't see around the corner. That is cool. It's much more the controls and the instant menu restart that made me be like, I maybe don't miss this.
The game I'm going to talk about then is actually, I think the first, let's say second game I ever played on PlayStation. The first game was Tekken.
I remember your
your story and you beat your older brother.
Not my older brother, Rob. I'm an only child.
Oh, that's right.
It's my best friend's older
Your
brother.
best friend's older
We're
brother.
so
Yes,
close as a team.
that's right.
We just remember these key facts about each other.
I'm still quite impressed you remembered the story. So yes, it again involves my best friend Ross. It was his PlayStation at the time. I didn't have one. I used to go around his house every day after school, and we used to play Tekken or Shockwave Assault. Has anyone played Shockwave Assault?
What is Shockwave
No.
Assault?
Shockwave Assault.
This is the first time I've even heard of this game.
Shockwave
I'm doing it now
Assault.
while you're talking.
It's,
Of the visuals.
It's kind of like a 3D Space Invaders, which actually isn't doing enough justice.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a like you're in the cockpit of like a space, not a spaceship actually. I guess that's the point. You're in the cockpit of, well, it's sort of a spaceship, an Earth spaceship of the future.
An Earth spaceship.
And there are
of the
aliens
future.
invading Earth, and you're flying above the ground. You can't fly up or down. You can just go left and right,
Right.
like a kind of like futuristic afterburner. But 3D space. You've got a little cockpit. You're flying around. You're shooting aliens. Now, Shockwave Assault. As I said, this was like This was the second PlayStation game I'd ever played. It's such a mixed bag. It's such a mixed bag of bad and good. I mean, it didn't have a sky, Rob. There was
What?
no sky. The sky was black. And it wasn't a night sky.
Is that space?
No, we're on
No,
Earth.
we were on Earth. The sky was black, as far as I'm aware, just because they didn't do a sky. Like there's no stars.
Like it just didn't render in.
They just didn't do a sky.
Stars.
I mean, the kind of scope of it is amazing. You start off in Egypt. You're flying above Egypt. There are pyramids.
I've
There's
seen
like
pyramids in
3 or 4
screenshots.
pyramids.
Well,
There's
so they made the pyramids, but they just couldn't go, okay, blue, all.
no. Maybe it would have taken. Maybe I like that you
That's
pretended
how-
to
that's
know
how-
how developers weren't
That's
there.
how
Yeah.
you make games, isn't it?
Right.
Just highlight the sky.
We're
blue.
gonna make first thing we'll do. First, let's put in the first bit of code. Blue all done. That's sorted the sky.
That's how you do it, though, is it? Control.
Can we just put in Earth as well?
little buttons.
Earth in. Bum. Right. We are cooking with gas. We've already got our world.
Sky equals insert. You know what the coders do.
Yeah.
Blue.
Yeah.
Go.
Clouds.
Insert.
Random. 72. There you go. Clouds done. It's really
Really
happening.
stars,
It's
go
really
for
coming
it.
together. The cutscenes were all those amazing old like FMV like
Oh, I
filmed
live
real
those.
people in green screen like CG worlds. Like it started with one of those incredibly cheesy sort of news reports where he's telling the news and suddenly like it starts shaking and he's like, Steve, what's going on? And then like the transmission ends and there's a woman on like the bridge of like a space frigate. And she's got a radar and it like pings and she looks down and she's like, my God. And you see a little picture of Earth and the radar and it's just like this mass of green because there's thousands of alien ships that are all coming and they're starting their attack in Egypt for some reason. But the reason I have particularly fond memories of it, other than that, I mean, incredible cheesy cutscenes that you don't see so much anymore. And maybe you should because, they were kind of great. I mean, they were awful, but great. It's a weird balance to strike. Maybe it's very hard to achieve that, to set out to achieve cheesy but good. But me and my friend, as I said, we used to play this. It's not a 2-player game, and I don't even know if this is a function that developers knew that existed, but we used to plug in 2 DualShocks, or 2 controllers. I don't think they were even DualShocks at that time. And he used to steer, and I used to fire. And
I
now,
remember doing that with some games before.
I don't know if this is something they built in. I'm pretty sure this was never built as a 2-player game. And now the problem with that is, obviously, it was his PlayStation, so he got to steer, which is the hard bit.
It's only going left and right.
I could literally just like hold X, and that was my job. I used to not do that to try and add some element of skill, because I'd be like, oh, I don't want to waste my lasers, my infinite lasers that don't overheat. You could literally just go, but I was like, no, I'm gonna, only fire when there's a ship around. That's better. Now we're playing. I think there were also little missiles that you could occasionally fire, but you didn't have infinite of those. The problem is, I think he could also fire. So in a way, I was
were
just
useless
like
then.
handed the controller, like, yeah, we're playing a game. He was probably just playing it, and I was maybe, it was the player 2 syndrome. I'd get the slightly sticky controller or something.
Yeah, the off-brand one.
Yeah, maybe not an official
No.
controller. and I was guns, and he was also guns, but I was guns, but I couldn't steer. Like my DualShock wouldn't steer, but it would fire. It was very, very strange. And so I guess what I'm grateful for is that doesn't exist anymore. And that now we have co-op and split screen and the internet. You can play across the internet. You get your own ship with your own guns and your own steering. And yeah, you don't often see those cutscenes anymore, although I am a little bit sad that they're gone. I mean, that was probably the best thing about it. I like that game so much that I think a year later, when I got my first PlayStation for my 11th birthday, I bought Shockwave Assault.
Someone had to buy it.
Huge mistake. What was I thinking? What was I thinking? It was not that good. We played it for hours. I only remember the first 2 levels. I'm not sure we ever got past there. I don't know if we got bored and we just start again or go and play second again or what. But yeah, that's as much as I remember. I don't think we ever defeated the aliens. So, sad time.
So, I'm going slightly off piece here. Because everyone expects me to talk about Final Fantasy, and there's like one person in the comments that keeps coming at me for that. So like, great, cheers mate.
Don't give them the time of day.
No, so instead, we're going to talk about memory cards.
Oh, yes.
So anyone who remembers having an original PlayStation, or even a PS2, but because we're doing 90s, the original PlayStation, you had to have a memory card if you wanted to save the game. Now, chances are your parents didn't understand video games, so when they bought you the PlayStation for Christmas, they probably didn't buy you the memory card to go with it.
Absolutely.
And you couldn't save on the system like we do now. So if you didn't have a memory card, I think until I could eventually get to, I lived in Abergavenny, so I had to go to Cardiff. That was where my nearest game was at the time.
So long on poke that, isn't it?
It was. And I had to wait until someone was going shopping to Cardiff and taking me with them, so I could spend my Christmas money to buy a memory card. So I played the first like 3 or 4 hours of Final Fantasy VIII a lot.
Oh, no.
An awful lot, because that fire Calvin and me, we were well acquainted by the time I finally got my memory card.
Oh man.
Those memory cards, 1 megabyte.
Yeah, I remember.
Split over 15 slots. So it was done in slots.
Remember it well.
Yeah.
And the little low res icons.
Yeah,
you
the
used
little
to get in the
icons.
menu.
But you could only make, well, you could do up to 15 saves on a memory card. But some games took more.
Yeah.
So like, I remember Populous, the beginning, basically was a whole memory card.
I love Populous.
But you needed like a whole memory card for that. And when you're like 13 years old, not even that, I would have, what would have been like 10 or something? Maybe, I can't even remember. What am I, 31 now?
Yeah.
Someone do the maths for me.
I think it's around, you would have been like maybe
9?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that money to then go and buy a memory card so you could save your game, especially, and I did have Populous, which I could not really figure out, quite frankly.
I loved it.
No. The last Tuesday checklist I was in, we talked about how bad I am at those city builders, and that has not changed as I've got older.
No.
But you just had to have a memory card for everything, and then you'd like take them to a mate's house or like lose it.
That was the worst.
Yeah, everything just gone. Like it's just gone forever. Or to save money, you'd buy one of those like off-brand ones, and it would break.
Yeah.
And you'd lose everything. They were so, like these memory cards were so precious. I remember the PS2 cases did have a little place for you to like put your memory card in.
Yeah. Because the PS1 case, I always used to put mine loose in the PS1
I did
case
as well.
I used to go around to my mates, and
it definitely did
joggled
damage.
around in my bag and fell out. I used to have an off-brand one that was like 4 memory cards in one.
Yes, because you could get much bigger.
Digitally select which of the 4 memory cards you wanted on the front.
What?
And so you had to like hold a button in, almost like a digital watch, and move between memory card 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Wow.
And that digital interface broke almost immediately.
Oh my god.
And so like, I think I had Final Fantasy VII on slot 1.
Oh, my heart feels for you.
And I was stuck on slot 3 because I was playing Vagrant Story, and that took up 5 blocks.
That took 5, because Kadelka was only 1 block,
Yeah.
and that was one of my favourite, like, oldie-timey 90s JRPGs, and that was only 1. I think Gran Turismo was quite a lot of blocks
That was
as well.
Like 5,
Yeah,
I
that was
remember
a lot.
at least 5.
And that was like the more you unlocked, I think, as well, like the more slots that started to take up. I had one, in the end, I had one just for Final Fantasy VIII.
Wow.
And it was like labelled the Final Fantasy VIII memory card. It was like, do not touch it, do not remove it. I wouldn't take it to friends' houses. I was terrified of losing it. And now, it's just like imagine just the PlayStation 4 being like, oh, well, sorry, mate, Vagrant Story's taken up a third of the memory. So you just, we have to delete something now, won't you?
Yeah.
Or I can put them on you if I want to relive that horrific memory. I
Yeah.
can just put them on USB stick and hope for the best.
Which are like chewing gum or pennies.
Yeah, like they're-
Find them down
they're everywhere
just
in my
look
house.
underneath the sofa. It's like, oh, I found one. Yeah.
No, literally, it'd be like, they've got a
64
USB
gig.
stick.
Yeah, 64 gig.
No, but you like, have you got a memory card on them? Memory stick. Oh yeah, let me just start turning out my pockets. Oh,
Yeah.
here's 8. Which one do you want?
I've got one on my keys.
Which one do you like the look of?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes.
So yeah,
memory cards.
that's something that, while I remember fondly, my retro tinted spectacles,
Yeah.
where you remember stuff in the video games in the past better than what they actually are, I am thrilled, utterly thrilled that I no longer can lose all of my save data by having my lunch, like the drink that my mum packs in my lunch bag,
no.
open and flood my backpack,
Oh, God.
thus killing my memory card.
Bad times. God bless the cloud.
So a game, or some games I'm going to talk about that I played in the 90s and that have made me realise how brilliant games are now, are the Tomb Raider games on PS1, which I remember loving, but I never really got very far in them for many reasons. And I think I've told the story before of how I had Tomb Raider 3. My dad bought me Tomb Raider 3, and I never saw past like the first area in Tomb Raider 3. You go down the slide at the beginning, you jump over the spike bit, you continue going down the slide. Occasionally I'd mistime the jump and I'd just jump into the spikes, and that would be my adventure over there. And you get down to the bottom and there's a monkey at the bottom, you shoot the monkey, and then I don't know what happens in the game after that, because it's just a couple of areas that I could, hop between. I think one had a waterfall in it. It looked nice and green. I was like, yeah, I'm ready to raid some tombs, but I just couldn't. I was 9, 10. I just couldn't find where to go. I had no idea what I was doing. Basically, what it makes me feel grateful about now is, if I was playing that now, there would just be like an arrow on the top of the screen, like this way, come this way, or there'll be like a little objective thing telling me. Or even if there's none of that, games, if you spend too long not doing the thing, they'll be like, try doing that. Have you considered not being rubbish at the game?
Yeah.
Just have a little go, and you'll be able to go. And there was none of that then. And
You could Google it too.
yeah, you could Google it as well. I didn't
Yeah.
have the internet.
No.
I don't
think anyone
I
had the
can't
internet.
remember if the internet existed back in 1990 something,
It
8,
existed,
9.
but
It did, because I remember I used to play Creatures.
no idea what
It
that
existed in a very primitive fashion.
I used to look at
is.
Creatures.
Google didn't though. I remember having a lesson about Google when I was about 12.
Really.
Yeah.
The
We
first,
asked Jeeves,
the first,
Your mum.
Ask Jeeves,
Lycos.
Alta Vista,
your mama.
Lycos, Yahoo,
Yahoo, yeah.
AOL.
Couldn't ask any of those how to get past the beginning of Tomb Raider 3 though,
No,
like in my opinion.
even if you could, you would take you to some strange forum probably,
Yes.
and only if
Dark
someone
web.
One of those
Yeah.
amazingly written guides you get that's just all text, and they've like
With
drawn
screenshots.
pictures with
Oh,
text.
yeah.
The text, and
And-
they write out like the Metal Gear logo in
Yeah,
text.
in text.
Oh.
I used to love those.
Those are
I
so
started
cool.
writing one of those
Did you?
for Final Fantasy VIII when many moons ago.
Yeah.
Like I just wrote out exactly how I played the game for no reason other than I was bored.
Yeah.
But other
bored.
other Tomb Raider games,
Still fighting that one monkey, wasn't he?
The Last Revelation I actually got quite far in, and I was quite proud of myself.
Right.
With no one to tell me what to do, no guide, no help, no nothing, no arrow telling me where to go. I like figured out all the puzzles and everything. But there was one bit I got stuck at. It was called The Guardian of Semerket, or something like that. Basically,
Right.
The Guardian of Semerket is a big boar.
A boar?
A big, yeah,
Like the pig.
pig.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So was he just really boring?
Not boring, no. And you're just in this corridor, and I can't even remember how you get into the corridor. I think you drop down into the corridor from a place where you then can't climb back up to. And it's just a long corridor in like an L shape, if I remember, and there's just this big boar running around it. That's where I got to in the Last Revelation.
Right.
And I jumped over the boar, and I could see some maybe little doors. I think maybe do I have to stand there and make the boar charge into the door? But that didn't quite seem to
Quite
work.
advanced thinking.
That didn't quite seem to work. I mean, I played this level a long time. I spent many hours in this corridor before finally giving up. I think in the end I did look it up on YouTube, and you do have to make the ball charge into the door, but for some reason that never quite worked for me. I never quite got it right. So there was obviously a very precise. And that's another thing games are like. They're quite forgiving. If to activate that success state, you only have to get the thing near the thing, and it's like, well done, you've done it, definitely done it, and it'll activate the cutscene.
Even I learned that playing Resi 2 original. Trying to open doors in a panic. You have to be exactly the right spot, facing exactly the right way.
Oh, this door doesn't open, okay. And you're so used to that kind of thing being so easy in games now that you just assume if it doesn't work straight away that you've got it wrong, or that's not a thing that's supposed to happen.
Exactly.
So I think I was on the right lines, but never quite managed to get it just perfectly right. And I remember my friend at school, Adam Bale, claimed he'd finished Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation. And I asked him, how do you get past the Guardian of Semaket then? And he was just like, kill him. And I have since, you know, worked out that maybe Adam Bale didn't finish Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation. Because you can't kill the Guardian of Semaket. It's just a big marauding boar thing.
I deliberately destroyed my sister's memory card once.
I remember you saying this.
Oh no.
You're a horrible person. You've told us this story. What did she do to you?
Well, she was playing Crash Warped and she couldn't beat N-Jin. And I was like, I'll beat him for you. Not as a nice gesture, but just to show her that I could. I was like, I'll beat him for you, but afterwards you're not allowed to save it. You're not allowed to have, like, my progress. So I beat
Why would she agree to this?
I beat N-Jin and she immediately ran to, like, the save bit. I was like, don't save it. I told you couldn't save it. And she started saving it. So I maliciously just turned the console off halfway through the save, which
everybody knows.
Warped, it just ruined her entire memory. Not just Crash, all of the saves on her memory card.
That is pure evil.
I did warn her.
You're warped.
I did warn her.
Wow. Fun.
Another evil thing I did to my sister.
Oh god.
I just remembered she started Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation as well, and she was in a bit, like one of the first areas, and she got up to go to the toilet, so I quickly I jumped like off a really high jump and saved it.
Oh
mid-jump.
no.
And in Tomb Raider,
that is awful. That is awful.
in Tomb Raider, obviously it just saves wherever. So every time she loaded up her game, Lara would just plummet to her death, just over and over and over again.
Pure evil.
And I didn't admit to doing that. So she was like, how's I didn't remember saving it there.
Let me just think. I went to the bathroom, everything was fine. And when I came back, everything had gone
I'm
bad.
so glad you're an only child.
Oh yeah, it's the best.
Yes, we nearly called this video Borderline Personality Disorders that show how good Rob is at pretending to be a human now, but it wouldn't fit on the thumbnail. Let us know in the comments what 90s gaming quirks you can't believe we all just cracked on with. Give us a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe if you haven't for more of these videos every week. Thanks for watching.